strategies around it. And what we're going to cover today, and what I want to share with you, is what are the challenges that you face in work management, and when I say work management, I just mean creating work orders or any type of challenges that you might face with data that it takes to get a better utilization of your enterprise asset management system. The obstacles to data quality. Run through you some examples of ways you can use analytics to measure the data quality as well as the output of what you're trying to achieve. And then a little bit about AssetAnalytix and the solution and how we solve these challenges. So, challenges in work management. Well, let's talk a little bit about that. This kind of frames the discussion today, or the presentation. Most of the times what I've seen is organizations typically will acquire and implement an enterprise asset management system or CMMS system, and they'll create some processes, some workflows, and implement it, install it, and then at the end of the day, after a period of time, they try to go in and create some type of reports or metrics, and they find that they lack in the data quality to get to those metrics. And typically, in what we see in every organization that we visit or we talk to, they always, when we talk about analytics or metrics or dashboards or reports, the one comment that I always get about 90% of the time is, Johnny, that sounds really, really good, but the data is not there for me to get it out. I'm just not getting the data in. So this discussion is around how do you get good quality data inside of an enterprise asset management system or CMMS, and then take that data through a life cycle where you can at the end measure and report and analyze what's happening in your organization. So the first thing is you've got to understand what's the end in mind. For example, if I want to do a mean time between failure report, well, I have to make sure that from a data entry standpoint, from a work order entry, my users are entering the fields that are required, so I'm able to create a mean time between failure or mean time to repair or a downtime type metric. So if I understand what I'm trying to achieve, then I take that and then I take that to the entry to the user interface. So typically what we do is we talk about it. Okay, I need start dates, I need end dates, I need failure codes, and I know sometimes everybody says, well, we've got to build failure codes, but you could at least start making those fields available to the users, only the fields that they need, and make sure that they key those in during the entry process to drive the metric that you're trying to capture. The second thing what this does, once you understand the end in mind, and once you've established and created a framework so users to make it easy for the users, the technicians, the mechanics, the operators to enter this information inside of enterprise asset management or CMMS, you get their buy-in because now it's tailored to what they want to do. And it's easy for them to enter this information. It doesn't take them 3 or 4 screens to put in the data so you can get this information. And plus you get the what's in it for them. You show them the value and the importance, because once they understand what the end in mind is and they understand what the input is, then you get user buy-in. And at the end of the day, if you do a great job at number 1 and number 2, then you get a good quality work order. And that's all, most cases, as I said, 90% of the time, the biggest problem is, and the one comment I always get is, I just need a good quality work order. So let's kind of take an example of how you would drive a good quality work order or other areas of within your enterprise asset management. if your goal is to maintain high reliability, and that's one of the metrics you want to measure, well, the two sub-metrics that make up that will be mean time to repair and mean time between failures. Well, it's not you just can run a report and say, hey, I want to run mean time between failures or mean time to repair, unless you have the action, unless you get the information inside your system. So you can take it down a level where now you start improving, you start measuring and tracking information like training hours and how are we doing against that. Using data and fields to create an ad so you could do better planning and scheduling. You want to create the task. You want to create the estimated hours. You want to make sure the parts are planned. Without having parts, without having efficient and understanding of what your labor utilization is and your backlog, you can't you can't create efficient work orders that you can plan. And on the other hand, if you don't have good quality PM. So what I'm trying to explain here is what the importance at the action level is to create screens and functions within your enterprise asset management system that captures the information that drives the action that will roll up to the intermediate goal that will eventually get you to your objective. This is not a journey that can happen overnight. So some of the things that we do is, and I'll kind of walk you through these in the next couple of slides, is how can we drive this behavior so we can get the overall objective, which is to maintain high reliability. So some of you on this call probably use SAP PM, Maximo, Oracle, the old data stream, or Infor EAM product, or maintenance connection. There's numerous enterprise or CMMS systems out there. But no matter what your CMMS or EAM is, most of the time everybody has the same issue. And the issue is most of the time either the work order is too complex to get it in, or the fields creating assets is too complex, or we need to reduce and improve the way we capture this data. Another question would probably pose, how would you, as an organization, rate the integrity and the quality of your data in your CMMS system? And then, like I said, 90% of the time, it's hardly ever very poor, but it's between poor and good. If you look on that, we have a data quality maturity level that we talk about in our consultations, and most of the times we find in that maturity level, most customers are poor to good. But how do you move that up, and how do you move that through your maturity level? So let's look at what's the obstacles. Well, the first thing is, and I talked about this a couple of times, too many fields to fill out. How many times have you walked in, or your techs or mechanics or operators or management look at the system and there's like 20 fields on the work order, and you only fill out 3 to 4 to 5 fields, but yet all of them are there, and it looks very confusing and intimidating. So the first thing you need to do is you need to, as you go back to the end in line, what are the 5 to 10 metrics that you're going to capture, and then map that back to the fields that you want to capture within inside the EAM, and make those fields available, easy to get to, with lookups and drop downs, and not very complex. The same thing comes out with the layout. It's just not clean, If you have too many fields, then it's not clean. And that drives, again, the behavior of not wanting to key in. Another thing I get a lot when I talk to down to the technician level is, I don't know why I'm keying all this information in. All I know is I'm going in, I'm keying it in, and it goes into one big black hole. So another common obstacle is being able to show the reason, again, I keep going back to the end in mind, to the user why it's important for them to do this, because what is it going to drive in the long run. A lot of times work is performed by not entering the CMMS. And that goes back to number 1 and number 2 in this list. Too many fields out to fill out, not a clean and easy layout. And what happens is, somebody goes out, does a 15 or 20-minute job, and say, oh, it's going to take me 5 to 10 minutes to create a work order. They skip it. But those jobs do need to be documented, because it's very important to see, especially if we're driving, if we're doing mean time to repairs or mean time between failures or downtime, to understand, maybe that 15-minute job eventually drove into an equipment downtime that could have been prevented. And a lot of times, work is closed with no information. They're not putting in the hours. They're not putting in the material, the failure codes, the problem codes. So this, if you kind of look at the obstacles and you kind of look at where the data quality issues stem from, it's again is we're missing the opportunity to make it easy for our people to put in the data. So let's look at some examples of how we could drive better data quality. If I want to have a good asset registry or asset data, and my users create the asset data, or the information is being collected in the fields, or however I'm getting this information, I want to make sure by asset type, by asset class, by asset category, how many of my records have parents, have calendars, have shifts, have priority serial numbers. And as you can see in this example, basically, my asset type, 56% only have parent. Serial, 38 serial numbers. So I can use reporting and analytics to drive a better quality asset registry. So in the end, if I'm trying to do analysis with this information, well, I'm going to get the quality based on what I'm looking at here. So if I can drive that to a certain level. Now, a lot of times what we'll do is we'll also highlight these based on colors that we believe, should be, the quality should be between 80 and 90%. It's green and et cetera, and drill through to see what's to the asset details. Another example is if we're planning and scheduling and we're trying to do, or we're looking at data quality for work order schedule variance, right? We want to look at, okay, what's the work orders? How many percentage of location, percentage of work types are keyed in, GL accounts? Again, we're looking at the quality, and we post this information to leaders, to managers, to supervisors, to have an understanding of the data and to drive, by measuring the quality, drive better data entry, drive better analytics. And the final one, and we have numerous of these that we've done, we look at, okay, if we're going to measure mean time between failure or mean time to repair, what are the fields that we need to make sure we have? We need to make sure they're putting information down to the asset level, not to the functional location. We need to make sure we're putting dates, end dates, hours, downtime codes, the information that will drive an example that I'm going to show you for the report. So the key here is, as you look at these 3 examples, is how would you, if your end in mind is a mean time between failure report, or if your end in mind is to do, PM compliance or corrective versus PMs, or just have a better understanding of the work that's being created out there, the best way to do it is to drive again back to the user interface to make sure that you're capturing the right data to get to this, and using reporting to drive the behavior to make sure. Now, sometimes it doesn't necessarily mean it's a behavioral. Nobody wants to key in the information. It means the fields are not available, or again, it was too complex to get the data in. Training, maybe you find that a lot of people are creating work orders at the functional location versus the asset, means that you haven't built your hierarchy deep enough, or your hierarchy, or you don't have a hierarchy developed, or maybe it means that or maybe your failure codes need to be reevaluated. Things like that can drive it. But unless you understand them and know what are the issues around data quality, you can't act on it and you can't make changes. So here's an example of a mean time between failure report where when we talked about it earlier, we talked about if I'm going to drive the MTBS or if I'm going to drive MTTR, what is the field? Well, I can start if I go back to this. What you'll see is if I'm going to do that, I'm going to start capturing these fields, and with the end in mind, I will have two reports. I'll be looking at the quality of the data going in, and I'll be looking at the quality of the data coming out on my report. So based on that data I'm capturing and the quality of that data, I can analyze my assets. I can look at my mean time between failure, mean time to repair, my availability. I can look at my PM compliance, the man hours that I'm putting on the work orders. So using those two efforts, I'm able to drive the metrics that I'm looking for, which in return is to drive equipment reliability. Here's another example of using, and there's a couple of things that we can talk about here when you look at data quality, is I've got a bucket of work orders out there with different statuses, different priorities, and without capturing the data, putting in, are we planning the hours, are we're putting the estimated hours, how much of that work order is being put in with no information, and these bucket of work orders, how are they aging over time? So again, having this type of information can drive better decisions from the data entry standpoint, and also cleaning up my information within my work management system. One of the things you can see is the numbers that are in blue are basically drill downs. So you can click on, if you wanted to go see these 90 work orders for this site, these 6 work orders that are greater than 90 days, you put that, you drill down and see those in the list, forward them to somebody to take action. What's interesting is to drive data quality, we also utilize analytics based on the analytics. So if I'm trying to drive better work backlogs or reduce my work order backlog, clean up my bucket of work orders, make it more efficient, what I need to do is I need to make sure that my sites or my people are using the actual reports to improve. So we use an analytics to measure how many times this report was run, and based on the site that's running the backlog report, is there a change in their past due backlog? So if you kind of take it back and we talk about the end in mind, which is the metrics we're trying to capture, and I showed you a couple of examples. Those examples were a mean time between failure report. Another one was a work order bucket kind of report, work management report that shows me by buckets of where my work orders are and how I can manage them. Well, if I'm using reports to drive those reports more efficiently. In this case, what we've done is we've shown the sites that are not running their report, they have the highest backlog, and we've shown that the sites that are running their report are reducing their backlog. Very simple, but very, very effective. And it gets the attention of a lot of people in an organization, and it drives behavior. So one of the things I kind of highlighted at the beginning was the maturity. I asked the question, is your data, where are you? Do you have poor data, not so poor, good, or very good data? And what we believe is an organization cannot go from from a maturity in time up to this data-driven maintenance reliability with their data unless they take the journey and the maturity journey. And you kind of look at this, if you can imagine it as knobs that we're turning. We're basically start moving the knobs. We're improving data quality, which again, we're taking poor analysis, average data quality, and we have poor analysis. Well, we turn average data quality, and all of a sudden we start improving it. Well, at the same time as we're improving data quality, we're improving our data or analysis quality. And as we make these changes, and I'm not saying that if you go in and you start measuring the quality of a work order from an analytics perspective by site or by department or down to the mechanic, that you're going to get a quality analytics overnight. But it does help to start with something like that, at least just to get the user community to start entering information, even if it's just make sure that you fill this field. And okay, so maybe they did fill in failure code other, as 90% of the time most people fill in. But we can use the data to drive how many of the mechanics or how many of the people or operators are using other, how many of the user community, and then train them to be more effective. So what we start doing is we start using these analytics and reporting to take the average data quality and poor analysis quality up to the maturity time. And as the theme of our presentation is, it talks about using data quality and analytics to drive a data-driven maintenance and reliability organization. So my motto is, if it doesn't drive a metric, right, do you need it? So what do I mean by this? If there's a field on a work order that doesn't drive anything, it's just sitting there. Maybe it's a field that says, something that just nobody would ever use. Why would you leave it on the screen? If you're managing a manufacturing line, do you need to know facility information on it? Maybe if you're managing a conveyor or any type of other assets, pumps, motors, and creating work orders and fields that are there, if they're not going to be measured through a metric, do you need it? So as you're implementing your enterprise asset management system and you're trying to figure out, well, what fields do we leave on and what fields do we take, think about this. If it doesn't drive a metric, do you need it? So asset analytics, kind of a high level. I talked about some of the challenges and the obstacles that organizations face with data quality to drive better analytics, and how we, AssetAnalytix and Bio-Reporting House, solve these problems. We have consulting services that's been doing enterprise asset management and business intelligence reporting for over 15 plus years. We have a content library of some of those reports that I talked about earlier, and I showed you the key performance, the mean time between failure report, the bucket report of work orders, and the quality. We have built a library of these to help organizations at least have a starting point of how to drive better analytics and better quality. We have subject matter experts in maintenance and reliability, strong enterprise asset management domain expertise in Maximo, in Oracle, in Infor, in SAP, pretty much 90% of the most major enterprise asset management systems. And we have, we're willing, and most of our customers you'll talk to, especially our reference ones, we've talked about how we invest in making them successful and the approach we use in our engagements. So to that, I'm going to open it up to questions. I hope it was very beneficial and a different perspective to view around getting better quality data in your enterprise asset management system to drive better analytics.
Yeah. Hey, thank you, Johnny.
Thank you, Nilesh.
Hey, Johnny. We have a couple of questions. I'll just pick one of them, and probably rest we can answer from mail.
Okay.
One of the attendees wants to know whether this is a solution or whatever reports you have shown, this is a software or solution, or how does it work basically?
Sure, Nilesh, thank you. Yes, it's a typical question. We're not a software organization. We're a consulting organization that is an expert in asset data analytics. Our customers typically will have an enterprise asset management system and some type of reporting infrastructure like Cognos or Business Objects, Crystal, or Business Warehouse. And we help customers leverage the technology they have, and our content was built around that technology. So to sum it up, we don't sell software. We sell consulting and consulting services around data, asset reliability metrics and analytics, and we leverage the infrastructure that you have, and we bring in the content that we've built over the 15 years.
Okay, thanks, Johnny. One more question. One of our attendees asked, can you zoom in on KPI slide?
Can you zoom in
on KPI slide? Yeah.
This one right here?
Yeah. Right.
I can. Well, I can't zoom on this one because it's on the web PowerPoint, but I can send it to whoever asked that question. I can. We can send this sample report that would show.
Sure.
Basically, what you're looking at here is you're looking at three different components, leading and lagging indicators, where you're looking at the asset availability and reliability to the left, the maintenance management to the middle, the PM effectiveness to the right, and then on the bottom you see some cost budgets. And all of these analytics are coming from various sources. They're coming either from enterprise asset management or maybe some other production or HMI system to bring it together. And then each one of them is a drill down. So if I really wanted to go look at the ratio of corrective maintenance work order, I can click on that one and drill down and look at it to the details.
Hey, thank you very much, Johnny. There are a lot of questions, but we are short of time, so we'll answer them by mail. Thank you very much for the nice presentation, and thank you very much all the attendees for being patient and showing interest in this webinar. We will keep you updated about our future webinars, which will be on various topics related to reliability and maintenance domain. Thank you very much, and have a very nice weekend. Thank you.
Thank you, Nilesh. Thanks, everyone.
Hey, thank you, Johnny. Bye.